As part of our ongoing collaboration with Central Square Foundation, we are excited to bring to you the fourth part of this series where we will speak to experts in the field of EdTech and AI to understand the role of AI in making EdTech solutions more learning-friendly for students. In order to ensure learning outcomes for all children are met, CSF has been working towards system-led reforms to ensure quality access to school education to children across India. The episode will be out tomorrow, that is 19th of October. The conversation will be available on our website, indianexpress.com, and everywhere you get your podcasts. Make sure to tune in. To listen to the first 3 episodes of the series, check out the links provided in the description below. Now, on with the show. In this episode, we talk about 50 drugs which include everyday medicines as well that were found to be not of standard quality. We also talk about bomb threats that Indian flights have been receiving lately. But first, we talk about the recent developments in the Hardeep Singh Nijjar murder case that have strained the relationship between India and Canada. Hi, I am Niharika Nanda, and you are listening to 3 Things, the Indian Express news show. In a drastic turn of events, India withdrew the Indian High Commissioner to Canada and also expelled 6 Canadian diplomats. This followed an update in the Hardeep Singh Nijjar murder case.
Hardeep Singh Nijjar was a prominent face among, the Canadian Khalistani separatists.
That's Indian Express's Divya A.
Basically, a group from the Sikh community who are seeking a separate statehood for the Sikhs. This movement started in Punjab in the late 80s and early 90s. While the movement died down in Punjab, it has now found a little bit of resonance or voice among the NRI community, the Indian Sikh diaspora, in sections of that in Canada, in the US, and even in the UK.
Hardeep Singh Nijjar was shot down outside a Gurdwara in Canada in June 2023. This murder case escalated and became a major bone of contention between the two countries. In this segment, Divya explains what led to the expulsion of the Canadian diplomats, the updates that have surfaced in the case, and where do both the countries stand. Divya, for our listeners, can you tell us what is the Hardeep Singh Nijjar murder case that has strained the relationship between the two countries?
So this started in September last year when Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, he accused in the Canadian Parliament openly, made a statement about Indian agents being involved in the assassination of a Canadian citizen, a Khalistani separatist called Hardeep Singh Nijjar, outside a Gurudwara in Surrey in British Columbia in the June of that year. So he had said that the country has credible evidence of the involvement of Indian agents, Indian government agents in the case, and that impeaches the sovereignty of Canada, and he would like India to cooperate in the case. So that is how it started. India had refuted those claims, saying that they are motivated and, they are absurd, and this is not part of India's policy to execute any such thing.
I was apprised by my intelligence services that there was credible intelligence that agents of the government of India were involved in the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar.
We just heard Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau talking about the Nijjar murder case and accusing Indian agents of their involvement in the same. And recently, an update in the case led to the expulsion of diplomats from both the countries. So, can you tell us what happened exactly?
Ever since those allegations came out in September last year, there were a lot of back and forth with India dismissing the claims and always saying that Canada has not given any specific evidence regarding the claims it's making, and Canada always saying that it has spoken to India and it has evidence. But the evidence never came out in the public domain. So on Monday, on October 14, India gave a statement, the Ministry of External Affairs gave a statement saying that they have received a diplomatic communication from Canada a day before, which would be October 13th, saying that Canada has identified some Indian diplomats, including, interestingly, Indian High Commissioner in Canada, Sanjay Verma, as persons of interest in the ongoing investigations in the case. Of course, New Delhi responded by, taking a strong exception to this, calling this preposterous and withdrawing these diplomats, saying that, they are not safe in Canada. They are being viewed as persons of interest in a murder investigation without any credible proof. And in return, India also expelled 6 Canadian diplomats from the country, which included the Canadian acting deputy high commissioner or the charge d'affaires, Stewart Wheeler, who was earlier, summoned by the Ministry of External Affairs, and he was told in no uncertain terms that, this is not how it can go on, and Canada has to provide evidence, and Indian diplomats have to feel safe in the country.
Right. And Divya, how did the Ministry of External Affairs respond to these allegations?
The response was unusually long, hard hitting, and crisp. Something like we have not seen, India being very, very belligerent about something in a long time. I mean, these kind of responses we've earlier seen for Pakistan in terms of cross border terrorism and all. So, India made it clear in no uncertain words that Canada is sheltering extremists, pro Khalistani elements, and giving them a space which under the garb of freedom of expression, which is threatening India's security and sovereignty. So India made its concerns clear, hitting back at Canada's imputations on the involvement of its diplomats in the Nijjar case. India said that it reserves the right to take further steps in response. And it said that, the Canadian acting high commissioner was informed that the baseless targeting of the Indian high commissioner and other diplomats and officials in Canada was completely unacceptable. They were told in as many words. India also underlined that, in an atmosphere of extremism and violence, the Justin Trudeau government's actions have endangered their safety, and that India has no faith in the current Canadian government's commitment to ensure their security. So that is the reason India cited for taking such an extreme step to withdrawing its High Commissioner and other senior diplomats from Canada. It's the same old Trudeau saying the same old things because of the same old reason. That is basically the hard-hitting sentence that India put out on Tuesday.
And a while back, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau met in Laos. So was there any foreshadowing of all the events that have followed since?
Yeah, so Prime Minister Narendra Modi met his Canadian counterpart Justin Trudeau on the sidelines of the ASEAN summit in Laos on Friday. This was actually their second meeting ever since Trudeau had made those allegations about India's involvement in the killing of a Canada-based Khalistani separatist. It was Trudeau who made the meeting public. He described it as a brief exchange. But at the same time, he spoke to the press and he said that while I won't go into the details about what we spoke about, but I have said it many times that the safety of Canadian citizens and upholding the rule of law is one of the fundamental responsibilities of Canadian government. And that is what he would stay focused on. And he said that he had emphasized to Prime Minister Modi that there is work that the two countries need to do. He was hinting at the ongoing, investigations in the Nijjar murder case. And later he also revealed to reporters while addressing, after the diplomatic fallout on Monday, that he had told Modi that the National Security Advisor of India, Ajit Doval, is meeting, Canadian officials who are going to give them the evidence about the Nijjar case and, the involvement of Indian officials, and that India has to take it seriously. So he later revealed that all this was going on, but Indian side never gave it any weightage. India said and maintained that, it was nothing great, nothing substantial was discussed in the meeting, and that India continued to maintain their argument that, Canada is giving space to Khalistani separatists, and that has to stop before anything else could be, looked at.
And Divya, what is the Five Eyes Intelligence Sharing Alliance?
So on Monday, as soon as, these allegations became public and, the mutual expulsion of diplomats happened, Canada dialed its Five Eyes partners. It's basically an intelligence sharing network between 5 countries, which includes Canada, US, UK, Australia, and New Zealand. So Canada has always maintained that it has been in touch with its Five Eyes partner, the 5 countries that are part of the intelligence sharing network, about the case. And in fact, the evidence that it has is a part of what is mutually shared between the countries. So Canada reached out to UK and New Zealand along with US and Australia. And it is to be noted that US and Australia are also India's Quad partners. Trudeau briefed all the 4 countries on its probe into the allegations of Indian involvement in the Nijjar killing. In fact, a day after Canada's assertion that it had shared evidence of Indian involvement in the case, the Five Eyes partners also doubled down on India. All of them said that the allegations are serious and that India should cooperate in the probe. The US said that they had expected India to cooperate, but India chose an alternate route. UK also gave a statement saying that those allegations were of serious concern and that they trusted Canada's judicial system and that India should cooperate. In fact, all of them maintained the same line. And Canada is essentially claiming that all the Five Eye partners are in loop and they are on board with, the evidence that it has in the case and in the major broader allegations that were made by the Canadian Royal Mounted Police, RCMP, about the involvement of Indian diplomats in the spying cases and how they collected intelligence on the South Asian community and targeted specific pro-Khalistani elements.
So, Divya, what is the current update on this entire matter?
Trudeau has deposed before the Foreign Interference Committee, and whatever happened in the days preceding to his deposition, like India had also said in the statement that, this is before Trudeau's deposition, that he had to set the stage with all of these allegations against India. So that is what has happened. He had said that when he made allegations, they only had intelligence and not proof against India. And India has, of course, always rejected those allegations. And that is where it stands. And as of now, India maintains that it has not been given any specific proof. India has not been told who to probe, what to probe. India has just been given vague information. So that is where it stands currently.
We chose to continue to work behind the scenes to try and get India to cooperate with us. Their asks of us was, well, how much do you know? Give us the evidence you have on this. And our response was, well, it's within your security agencies. You should be looking into how much they know. You should be engaging. It's, no, tell us what you know. Show us the evidence. And at that point, it was primarily intelligence, not hard evidentiary proof.
Next, we talk about the drugs that have been found to be not of standard quality. In a check that was conducted by the Central Drug Standard Control Organization, or the CDSCO, the apex drug regulator of the country, 50 medicines, which also included some common ones like paracetamol, which is used for fever, metformin, which is the first line of treatment for diabetes, and pantoprazole, which is used for acidity, were found to be not of the desired quality. CDSCO has released a list of these drugs as a part of their monthly exercise. To learn why these drugs didn't pass the cut, what happens when drugs are deemed not up to the mark, and whether it's a cause of concern for the regular public, we have Indian Express's Anonna Dutt joining us. Anonna, can you tell us what was found out by the CDSCO in their recent random sample check?
So the CDSCO, which is the country's apex drug regulator, found more than 50 medicines to be not of standard quality or spurious in the recent report that was uploaded. So this report is based on random checks of, medicines that are available in the market. It is conducted every month by the state drug regulators as well as the central drug regulator. And this report is uploaded in the public domain. So this time around, a lot of, commonly used medicines such as paracetamols and metformin, which is used for the treatment of diabetes, these medicines were found to be not of standard quality.
Right, but why are these random sample checks carried out?
So basically, the random checks are meant to keep a check on the quality of drugs that are available in the market. It is also meant to, inform various state regulators. So, for example, if a drug fails in one state, the other state officers should become aware that there is a problem with a certain batch of the drugs. Other than that, it also keeps the companies on their toes because they know that these samples may be randomly picked up from the market and tested, so they would be more likely to maintain quality of the drugs. This is the reason the drug regulator carries out these regular random checks. This happens every month. This is a routine procedure, keeps happening. Every month you would see a list of drugs that have failed, and this process continues. Of course, when a case is filed, say by a drug regulator, that might take, years to be resolved in the court case. Essentially, this is a regular process. It happens all the time. All the state regulators as well as the central regulator, they are mandated to carry out these market random checks in order to ensure quality. So this is not unusual that certain drugs failed.
Right. And Anonna, the drugs that fail the quality checks are the ones that fall into the NSQ and the spurious drugs category. So can you tell us, what do these categories mean exactly?
So when we talk about drugs that fail the test, so to say, so one, as you mentioned, is the NSQ or not of standard quality. This is the most common problem that you would see with these drugs that fail every month. So NSQ is essentially drugs that So for every drug, India has certain parameters. So there are prescribed tests, prescribed quantity of active ingredient, etc. that have to be in a medicine. And these medicines that are picked up randomly from the market are tested against these standards. And if they do not fulfill all the requirements, then it is called NSQ. So NSQ would be, say, a drug that has less quantity of the active ingredient. Instead of, say 95% required or 100% required, it would have 80%. That would be NSQ. So, for example, do not dissolve properly in the body. So you consume the drug, but it doesn't dissolve properly and release the active ingredient. That would also be considered NSQ. These NSQ medicines don't really harm a patient actively, but they do cause some harm because, say, you're taking a metformin for your diabetes, or you're taking an antibiotic for an infection. But if the drugs don't work as they're intended to, then, you would be worsening your condition. So they do cause some harm. Then there are spurious drugs. Spurious drugs are essentially fake products. So for example, somebody might try to mimic the products of the well-known brands in order to, trick people into buying these medicines. They may or may not have the active ingredient, but they are essentially not of the brand as stated on the packaging. So that was the other category under which drugs fail.
And are there any other categories as well?
The third category is adulterated, which is the most serious, category under the law, where you would find drugs which have some contaminants or adulterants present, which can directly harm a person that consumes them. So that category of drug is likely to be recalled by the regulator. For the others, they would warn these, like I mentioned, they would warn the other states that, this particular batch has failed these tests, and it would be looked at by the state regulators. But for something that is adulterated, there is likely to be a recall either by the company or, the drug regulator can also call for the recall of such products.
And Anonna, can you talk about the procedure that is followed by CDSCO in order to check whether or not a certain drug is of standard quality?
So for each medicine, there is something called the pharmacopoeia, and that mentions each medicine, each type of formulation, and what are the tests that they should pass. So it could be, like I mentioned, the basic test is, of course, the assays to check whether these drugs have the proper quantity of, active ingredient. That would be a basic test for most medicines. But other than that, also they would have stability studies, like how long do these medicines remain safe and effective even when they're stored in different conditions. They would have tests to see if the tablet breaks down easily or whether it dissolves properly when consumed. So there are various standards that are specified in this pharmacopoeia which the drug regulators have to check for.
And in a case like this, when certain drugs are deemed not of a desired quality, what is the process that follows?
So usually, like I said, adulterated medicines are the ones where there is a serious action and where the drugs are pulled from the market because it can cause direct harm to patients. For the others, it may not happen. It's different. So every state regulator takes the call and sometimes it is withdrawn. Sometimes it may have been consumed in the time that the lab reports are reported by the central regulator. So it is different for different types of drugs. But definitely there is action against the companies if this happens. Especially you would register a case when fake drugs are being made or when there is a serious violation of these standards. So there is that. But of course, another thing that happens is these tests also show, they create a profile of the companies of the drug regulator gets to know which companies the drugs are failing continuously and action can be taken accordingly. So there is something called the risk-based inspections that the drug regulator can carry out. So if a company, several of their batches of drugs fail, then, inspections may be carried out by the drug regulator and necessary actions taken. Of course, there would be a case registered against them. Things like that would happen.
And have these random sample checks revealed similar results regarding regular drugs before as well?
In fact, the data shows that about 2% of drugs available in the market do usually fail in certain parameters. And that could be nothing to do with the manufacturing of the drug. It could be that it was improperly stored or the transportation wasn't proper, the packaging opened up or something like that. Those are all challenges that do happen and the drugs do fail. But that is the mechanism which keeps the system going and ensures that the quality is maintained by companies.
And Anonna, in a situation like this where even regular drugs have been deemed not up to the mark, so would you say this is a cause of concern for the regular public who might be consuming these drugs?
Not at all. So nobody should stop consuming any of the medicines. Of course, when these reports are released, the particular batch numbers are mentioned that have failed. So even if you are taking, say, a particular brand of paracetamol, it's not necessary that all of the medicines have failed. It's just a specific batch that might have failed. And the regulators try to pull it from the market if it's harmful. So nobody should stop consuming if they see this, the drug that they are taking in the alerts. It is essentially meant for regulators to work and not to cause any panic or alarm among people.
And in the end, we talk about the bomb threats received by Indian flights. Days after multiple bomb threats to flights were received on social media, central intelligence agencies have traced IP addresses where threats were posted to London and Germany, Mahinder Singh Manral from the Indian Express reported. More than 20 flights of Indian carriers, both domestic and international, have received bomb threats this week. On Monday, 3 international flights of Indian carriers received bomb threats. This was followed by another 10 flights receiving similar threats on Tuesday. A day after, there were at least 6 similar threats received once again. These threats were sent via social media platforms and after security checks, they were declared to be fake. As the Central Intelligence Agency started working on this, Manral wrote, they first asked X to share the IP addresses from where all the posts were generated. They also asked to deactivate all the accounts, a source said. The source added that they have received the preliminary reports and they have been informed that the posts were made from 3 separate handles. Of these 3 handles, 2 IP addresses have been traced to 2 common IPs from London and Germany. The users have tweeted after using a virtual private network or VPN. The details of the third handle are still awaited. Usha Rangnani, Deputy Commissioner of Police, IGI Airports, said, and I quote, "This month so far, the IGI Airport Police responded to 7 incidents involving reported bomb threats. After thorough verification and inspection, all threats were confirmed to be hoaxes. Legal action has been initiated against those responsible for these false alarms to ensure strict measures against misuse and to maintain the safety and security of passengers and airport operations." Rangnani further added, quote, "An FIR has been registered under the sections 217 and 351(4) of the BNS as well as sections 31D of the Suppression of Unlawful Acts Against Safety of Civil Aviation Act 1982 in connection with the recent hoax bomb threat concerning the Akasa Air flight. A detailed investigation is currently underway after coordinating with the concerned social media platform. All accounts responsible for spreading these false threats have been suspended to prevent further misuse and ensure public safety." Unquote. Meanwhile, senior officials of the Ministry of Civil Aviation said that they are looking at measures to make regulations more stringent to enable harsher punishments for those behind such threats, including putting them on the no-fly list on flights of Indian carriers. Manral reported. You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by me, Niharika Nanda. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.